Welcome back to the flagship studio here at the JP Morgan conference. Our first interview today of 32 programs here at the flagship studio in 2025 is Stéphane Bancel, the CEO, the founding CEO of Moderna. So we're very happy to kick off the week with you, Stéphane. And your annual letter came out very recently, January 6th, and you talked about this being a year of discipline and focus for Moderna. You also talked about 45 programs in the pipeline. Tell me how you balance a program with that kind of breadth and depth with the notion of discipline and focus.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being back.
I think we're just trying to figure out what's the right way to bring those drugs to patients, looking at how do we diversify away from COVID, how do we look at unmet medical need, how do we look at value of the different assets and the risk in the portfolio. Since the beginning of Moderna, we always said, because there's so much risk and so much unknown, be able to build a portfolio is the only way to really go forward because we're going to keep on learning. One of our motto at Moderna is we won't be the smartest, but we're going to learn the fastest. And that's also what we do to do portfolio building.
You talked about risk in the portfolio, but one of the things that struck me in the letter is that you have a 70% success rate for programs that come through your pipeline compared to the 20% industry average. So in many ways, you've de-risked just based on the platform, no?
Yeah, so that's what one of the hypotheses that we had with Noubar when we started the company, which is because we use the same chemistry, we believed, now we know because we have the data, but at the time we believed that because we use the same chemical matter, that we should be able over time to have a much higher success rate, as you described, than the industry. And that's driving a lot of return for shareholders because if you think about it, in big pharma, most of the capital going into R&D drives no value. And so we think that it's really important to be able to just increase that to bring more value to patients and to shareholders.
And 2 years ago, when you were in the studio, you talked about Moderna being a digital-first company going forward. 2 years on, what does that look like day to day at Moderna?
So we have, I think, more than 2,000 GPTs that have been written by the teams across the business, whether it's in HR, in finance, of course, in science, in manufacturing, across all the functions. And more important is the team is trying to figure out how do we reinvent the business. So Tracy, our head of HR, is basically looking end-to-end in the enterprise and saying we build those processes first very quickly during COVID, and we build them in a non-GPT world. So how would you design those processes if you started from a blank page of paper? And so we set up together our top 40 leaders in the company to prioritize where do we think we should start in terms of business processes to reinvent and totally redesign, and that's what the team is doing.
You talked about a pre-GPT era when that started with Tracy. What are your own post-GPT hacks? What do you do differently as a result of some of the AI tools for efficiency?
So how long do you have? So a few things. First, I use it a lot for very simple things like to tell my communication team, like writing speeches. Sometimes I've done speeches that were written by GPTs. I read it quickly, and then I open a QuickTime and literally record the presentation using my mouse to scroll down. I use it a lot to bounce back ideas. We build a GPT that helps you test any idea if you say I want to go right or I want to go left. And it tries to have you like a companion to basically tell you the plus and minus, and you can just iterate and so on.
So you brainstorm together.
You brainstorm together. Another one that I have that I use a lot when I meet people, which is I wrote a GPT basically to give me all the background about somebody, but also then what are the 3 most relevant questions I should ask that person based on my background, because we have GPT Enterprise. So my system knows who I am, my job, how do I like things, what I do also from a philanthropic standpoint and so on, all my bio and everything. And so it's interesting that when I go see people, I just type in their name in that GPT, and I have a pretty extensive first bio and interest, but then the 3 top questions that I should ask that person to try to build the relationship pretty quickly.
For the record, these 3 top questions are analog. These are by me.
Good.
You talk in your letter about 10 approvals in the next 3 years. I mean, that would be extraordinary for a company 3 times your size. Talk about what you see coming down the pike in terms of approvals.
Sure. So what we said at our R&D Day in September is that we will file 3 BLAs before the end of the year. So we could have potentially up to 3 approvals in 25.
Yep.
Because we're using vouchers and so on. And then we have 6 additional phase 3 studies that we're expecting data this year.
6 phase 3 studies.
Additional to the 3 BLAs that we just filed. I'm really excited about what's going on in cancer. While we've done incredible things during COVID with vaccines, we have now RSV vaccine on the market. Flu COVID is one of the products we filed to the FDA BLA before Christmas. But what really excites me a lot is what's going on in cancer. I think what the team has done in terms of individual neoantigen treatment combined with Keytruda, where, as you know, we've showed 3-year survival, where 2 out of 3 people, compared to Keytruda monotherapy, are still disease-free, no metastases. I mean, just amazing. The plant in Marlborough is coming up very, very nicely. It's a state-of-the-art plant, a lot of technology in there. It's really, really fun. And so really excited about what's coming next few years.
I was thinking it was just a little less than 2 years ago the first data on the Keytruda-Moderna combo was shared, and it really stunned the world. And I'm just thinking about how fast iteration happens at Moderna and how fast the impact can scale. I'm thinking that next week, 5 years ago, was the first time you were asked, you were at Davos, whether or not Moderna would lend a hand in sequencing and trying to develop a vaccine for this mysterious virus being seen in Wuhan, China. And here we are 5 years later. Can you reflect on that and also think about, as it comes to cancer, which has been animating you for a long time, what 5 years ahead might look like?
Oh boy. Well, in 5 years' time, if you look at the products we're going to launch in the next 3 years, we're going to look like a very different company. We should have, close to 10 vaccines approved by then. The INT product in cancer should be approved as early as 27 in melanoma. And then because of all the phase 3s that are ongoing now. But what is exciting is that in 5 years from now, even drugs that are getting to the clinic now in cancer, because they're going to go straight into phase 1, 2, we have some very interesting T-cell engagers that are not 1, not 2, but 3 different binding domains. So some very, very cool biology that's coming.
Wow, it's exciting.
Yes.
You present at the conference tomorrow. What's your main message to investors this week?
Is that we are building Moderna to its true potential, which is a diversified portfolio that's going to drive a lot of growth.
It may not be obvious to everyone listening to this interview, but English is not your first language. So I'm going to ask you in your native language, if you had to distill into one word, Stéphane, what Moderna 2025 is going to look like, what would be the word?
Cancer.
Cancer. Same in English and French?
Very close.
There you go. Our first interview of the JP Morgan 2025 conference. I can't imagine a better start. Thank you so much for giving us the time, Stéphane, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you.